With its national banking license, Ripple will be able to use XRP in the US financial system, along with thousands of other banks. Let's read this story now. The national bank charter for Ripple, with direct inclusion of the XRP ledger. Smoke Dog, a well-known crypto researcher, brought attention to Ripple's application for a US national bank charter by sharing an SBI document that looked at how crypto companies could become more like regular banks. In his post, Smoke made it clear that the charter would make it possible for the XRP system to be directly connected to the mainframe of US banks. In his post, he talks about how important this change is for Ripple's RLUSD stablecoin and for XRP's place in regulated financial markets. A way for Ripple to get into the US banking system, its application to the Office of Comptroller of Currency asks for permission to set up Ripple's National Trust Bank. The planned institution would not do full-scale business banking like lending money or taking deposits. Instead, it would focus on trust custody. For now, you won't be able to open an account at Ripple's bank. That's not going to happen. It would be cool if, say, they let people with 1,000 XRP or so get an account there in the future. But for now, they are focusing on getting institutions to adopt. This is Smoke Dog's post. I also talked about this in a film yesterday. It's interesting that non-depository financial technology companies like Ripple, Circle, Wise, and BitGo are rushing like crazy to get a special purpose national bank charter in the USA. These companies do business with banks and use crypto, and these companies would be able to get into computer banking without going through any middle banks. Perhaps sneak is not the right word to use here, but you get the idea. This is how Ripple is currently linked to the banking system, through all of these middlemen and other partners that are directly linked to the Fed, right? If Ripple turns into its own national bank, it won't need those links anymore because it will be directly linked to the Fed. I also made a video about how the US is trying to get to a tokenized payment system. FedNow was meant to be the new system, but it took 4 to 6 years to get it up and running. However, FedNow is not a blockchain. All of these banks are linked to a central system at the Fed, and the Fed handles the payment as well. Let's put that aside for now and move forward with a blockchain-based system. It would likely take the US another 4 to 6 years to put something like that in place. Trump's government doesn't have that much time, though. What else could they do? They could ask a private company to make a RippleNet version, though. The US government could ask Ripple to make their own version of RippleNet. Because of the anti-CBDC Act, the US could even start stablecoins through this private entity. It could be called US Ripple One or something similar. Some of these issues need to be dealt with by Congress, but the US doesn't want to touch a CBDC. The US also needs a private company in the US to use their settlement system. People start to wonder which US company has the most trusted blockchain infrastructure, not just in the US, but also in the UK, Japan, and all of our other trade partners. If you look at Australia, you can see Ripple. When you look at the UK, you can see Reeve. Ripple can be found all over South America, Mexico, and Canada. You begin to put these parts together. The US only needs to pick up the phone if they want to do this. They might have already. Today is Tuesday if you're interested in these ideas and this movie. It looks like this video will be out on Wednesday. Check out what's on Tuesday and Wednesday. I'm putting out 2 films that talk about all of this. It was really cool where this information took me. I spent about 8 or 9 hours yesterday going through it all. I hope you like that. Let's come back to this regulatory state. We got off track a bit. This regulatory position would put RLUSD under federal oversight while still following state-level rules. It could also allow Ripple to try to get direct settlement access through the Fed master account. The SBI document talked about how non-depository fintech companies are speeding up their work. We talked about this Ripple, Circle, Wise, and BitGo to get licenses for specific uses. We're going to watch how this all goes. It would be good for Ripple if XRP and RLUSD did well. The future of its stablecoin RLUSD is directly linked to getting this charter. A trust bank controlled by the federal government would make the RLUSD reserves more secure and open. These reserves must be backed by liquid assets like US Treasury bills and the US dollar. More oversight could make institutions more confident in the stablecoin, which would make it more likely to be used for business payments and settlements in both domestic and foreign channels. This change would also be good for XRP. If more people use RLUSD, because it has the extra trust of a trust bank framework, the normal flow of XRP could go up a lot since those transactions happen on the XRP ledger. Remember that 90% of RLUSD is on Ethereum. To get all of those benefits, we would want to see that on XRP. As of right now, the US government is shut down, which means that non-essential staff are not working at the SEC, which means that the spot ETFs are kind of in confusion. That means you only have so many people. They won't be the ones who decide whether an ETF is accepted or not. That is why we are waiting. But what might happen to XRP when the government reopens? This map and view looked great to me. Capital could come in at a rate of $10 to $20 billion in the first year. Don't forget that this is new money entering the spot market worth 10 to 20 billion. Because of market cap factors, this would have a huge effect on the market cap. We won't talk about that right now, but you should understand what I mean. Effects on the market ETFs could indirectly help layer 2 environments, and projects that use XRP as a market catalyst do talk about the legitimacy of institutions. ETFs bring in pension funds, 401ks, and regulated investors, which boosts XRP's trustworthiness and popularity. Also, price dynamics inflows can make supply tighten, creating 30 to 50% upside momentum-driven trading and investing chances. For more information on timing, risk management, diversification, and investor strategy, keep an eye on ETF approvals and capital flows. There's a lot going on. Ladies and gentlemen, feel free to pause the video and read that all. It does, though. I've already been through a lot of this. I don't want to say the same thing again. I just made a movie about how BNY is linked. Their job is to keep $55.8 trillion worth of assets safe, the world's biggest. They are where Ripple keeps their RLUSD savings. It has been shown that tokenization and payment can work with Ripple and BNY Mellon. I talked about that in a long film today. Check that out if you're interested. Has there been any news about Ripple and OnAfric? Asked Kevin Cage. The fintech payment hub OnAfric links more than 500 billion mobile money wallets in 40 African countries and more than 1,300 payment routes across the continent. I'd like to know if there have been any changes. Through strategic alliances and the use of new technology, Ripple and the Have made big steps toward expanding payments and stablecoin infrastructure across Africa in the first half of 25. Large-scale collaborations, the use of Ripple's RLUSD stablecoin, and the building of major payment corridors through OnAfric are the most important changes right now. It tells you a few things about the 500 million mobile payments in 40 countries. The combination of Ripple's technology and XRP makes it possible for smooth blockchain-based cross-border payments. This speeds up money transfers and could save millions of dollars in costs. Ripple and OnAfric work together in institutional Great Passageways that connect the UK, the Gulf states, and Australia.